In this session, we're going to look at issues around strategic planning. And we've probably all had experiences of that. It is important to document what we hope to achieve and how we're going to do it. So we can't avoid the question of strategic planning. And there are potential scenarios around that. Scenario one is you put the big effort in to write down what you hope to do and achieve. You work closely with your partners to sign off on this. And that strategic plan provides the framework. It provides the master plan for going forward. It provides the team the confidence that they know what to do. And some would feel without that strategic plan, they can't achieve what they will achieve. The strategic plan is shared with others who then come on board and become part of it. The strategic plan is almost the difference between success and not success. That's one scenario for strategic planning. But there is another scenario, and that scenario is that the moment the strategic plan was finished, circumstances changed. The staffing situation changed. Conditions within that community changed. In fact, so many things changed that almost immediately the ink was dried on the plan became irrelevant. The team had to find other ways of working forward. And when they referred back to the strategic plan, it became not a reason for giving confidence, but it became a document that pointed to failure. It was a document that was best left in the back of the filing cabinet or discarded into the bin on the hard drive because it was no longer relevant. Now, the truth of the matter is that our experience in strategic planning can be at either end. It can be that strategic plan has provided a wonderful framework for us, or the strategic plan has become a noose around our neck, so to speak. It's become a liability because conditions have changed so much. And I want us to keep both those tensions in mind as we think about strategic planning. Now, in terms of debunking strategic planning as a useful exercise, probably the key person to think about that when you think about debunking strategic planning is Professor Henry Mintzberg. In 1994, he wrote an article in the Harvard Business Review called The Rise and Fall of Strategic Planning. And his view was that documenting your plans at the point in time actually cemented your thoughts in the past. In fact, your thinking at that time was based on previous scenarios, a previous understanding, but the world is continually shifting. And that it prevented flexibility. And he proposed that it's not strategic planning that's critical to an organisation, but it's the environment for strategic thinking. An environment where people can give their ideas, an environment where the plan can change, an environment that allows you to respond to new situations. So his argument was, don't think strategic planning, think strategic thinking. Think creating an environment for new initiatives, for flexibility. And I quite warm to Mintzberg, actually, because my personality is drawn to that sort of approach. A little bit of chaos, a bit of random thinking, a bit of opportunism. But it wasn't random in the sense that Mintzberg said there is a clear goal that you're aiming towards. There's a clear direction you're going. So that must be clearly understood across the organisation. But as the actually cementing of activities to get to that outcome, that was the major flaw with strategic planning. If you like, it may be a better way to thinking of it is a meandering towards the goal. Now, I was born and bred in the flat plain country of northern Victoria in Australia, and we have the Murray River, the big Murray River, that meanders along the countryside, irrigating the whole area, in fact. But it gets to its destination at the ocean by that meandering. It's about finding the least point of resistance. It's about continually flowing towards the mouth of the Southern Ocean. And that's maybe a good way to think about strategic thinking. Is we have our goal, but we may think this is the direction, but when we run into opposition or into things that prevent you doing that, you may have to veer to the left or to the right around that obstacle and find a new way forward. But the goal is clearly in mind. Now, of course, not everyone feels comfortable with the meandering. And when I use the word meandering, I don't mean necessarily slowly, but I mean that it's not a straight path to a particular outcome. But there are others, of course, who feel more comfortable with a logic framework. And when you think of strategic planning and the benefits of strategic planning, then you need to think of Professor Michael Porter, who basically argues if you don't plan, you're not going to get it done. You need to plan, you need to document, you need to have a clear strategy, or you won't get it done. You don't build a house without a plan. You don't build a car engine without a plan. And it's no difference about projects. You need to plan, you need to document, you need to have clear, logical decisions, you need the research to back that up, and if you do that, you are more likely to succeed. So you can go on the internet and look up Michael Porter, Professor Michael Porter, or look up Mintzberg, and you'll get the full sway of arguments for either side. But what's it mean for us doing project planning today? Well, you cannot avoid the question around logic frameworks. Most of the Western funders, the NGOs and even UNESCO and places like that, institutions like that, have some form of logic framework, some form of inputs, activities that will lead to the outcome, how you will implement them over a certain time frame, and how these all interplay. They will not work alongside you or with you without a documented framework. So I think you can't avoid logic frameworks in project planning and design. But I think you can bring into it the slight skepticism, if you like, or the open questions, and in terms of how you approach it, or the tentativeness of your plan with the option to redraw the plan, with the idea that we know where we're trying to get to, and this is our very best guess at this point in time about how we will get there, but we're open to change as circumstances change. So over the next couple of sessions, I want to introduce to you a very basic logic framework. I use a results-based management framework. Fairly boring, fairly predictable. You start filling in the results-based management framework, and if you've got a mind like me, your mind switches off after filling in the first couple of blank sections. But I'd like us to work through that with open questions. Work through a logic framework with a strategic thinking model in mind. And it's a very pragmatic reason for doing that is that we need to work with partners who understand logic frameworks. We need to be able to present our case, if you like, to people who can read it and understand it and identify with it. So I'm all for embracing Mintzberg and the importance of strategic thinking and an environment for greenlight thinking, and that it's a community-based approach in that. But I'm also willing to try and fit that within a fairly formal strategic planning process. So we'll see how we go. Welcome to project design and planning.